Hello, I'm Mark Teskey, your host for A Preacher and His Work. We have with us today Ron Brown. Ron works with Save Asian Souls, work out of Red Boiling Springs, Tennessee, dealing with human trafficking. And Ron, could you explain to our viewers what is human trafficking and how big of a problem is it?
Okay. Human trafficking involves several different phases. First, there are recruiters from different countries that go to other countries, such as Asia, where most of the human trafficking occurs. In Asia, 11,700,000 per year are trafficked from Asia. So these recruiters will go into this country in order to supply the girls for a particular Russian mafia, the brothels of Japan. The United States has 20 cities that are centers for human trafficking in the United States. These 20 cities will be sending these girls out to pimps and to corrupt institutions all over the United States. It is a major problem. So the recruiter is the first phase. The second phase is the recruiter will bring them to the United States by way of Mexico in most cases, and they walk across the border into the United States. And he sells the girl to the crime syndicate or to a pimp for approximately $10,000. They destroy all of her illegal documents, which were illegal to begin with, and tell her that she has no identity, she cannot go to the police, she cannot do anything except pay off the debt that she owes. She owes the debt for surgery, she owes the debt for her clothing, she owes the debt for the flight. All of these are a debt that she has to work off. So they come here, they're deceived, they're lied to, they're coerced, sometimes they're drugged, and they're brought to this position. They're promised jobs, they're promised to come to the land of milk and honey, the United States, the land of prosperity. And recently there were 17 arrested in Minneapolis, a big chain that was organized crime. They were bringing girls from Thailand into the United States. It is a major problem.
So this is really slavery.
It is slavery. We have more slaves today than we did when Abraham Lincoln emancipated the slaves. There are more slaves in the world than have ever existed in the history of mankind today.
That's quite a dramatic statement, but clearly if there's 11 million that are happening, this is happening to a year, that's
just from Asia.
This is a lot bigger problem than I would have imagined.
Yes.
So with a problem this big, what is it that Save Asian Souls is doing to help in this problem?
Okay, our goal is to save the girls' lives and to save their souls between the age of 12 and 20. After the girls get into the mid-20s, they don't want them anymore. The younger they are, the more they want them. Recently, I was in Nashville, Tennessee, and a young girl, 14 years old, was being trafficked. And they caught him with her. 14 years old. And that's the average age of trafficking, is that young age. So it's a serious problem. So we want to save their souls, we want to save their lives, and we can do both in one operation. So we need to get them into a safe house, or my preference would be to get them into a foster care home of Christians. We have churches all over Asia. The church is growing. Well, let me give you an example. Nepal. Nepal has 35 congregations with about 1,200 members. So we have a safe house in Kathmandu where we bring the girls. They have good house mother, she's a Christian. We have the preacher training school that provides the students to come over and teach the girls the Bible. Every Sunday they go to a worship service. It's just a matter of time till we're able to convert them to Christianity. When then, at the same time, we're sending them to a vocational education to get an education so that they can have a job. The average education is 5th grade. They come from severe poverty, as we'll see in a few minutes in some of the photographs.
So like here in Kathmandu, these are Nepalese girls?
Yes.
Okay, that are there still in their country.
That's right. Now, George and Lily, which you see on the screen now, are workers in China. And Lily was an orphan that we came in contact with many years ago. I sent her to Four Seas Bible School in Singapore to learn more about the Bible so she could teach the orphans more effectively. I did not know I was sending her down there to be trained as a preacher's wife. She met George, and that's wonderful. I wanted her to marry a good Christian man, of course. And now they're working for me part-time in China, caring for the girls that are in our care in China.
Okay, so that kind of worked out where she's now the preacher's wife, and he's the preacher. So he's a preacher and helping with some of the orphans.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, I'm here in Memphis, and at the Memphis School of Preaching, because of Jackie Fong. I baptized Jackie in 2004 in southern China, in Guangxi province. He worked for me for 10 years. I'm 79 years old. I need to be looking to somebody to replace me in case I become disabled or I have to go home. So I came to Memphis to see Jackie. Jackie's in the Memphis School of Preaching, and he's doing a tremendous job. And Jackie will be replacing me in the future. Now, do I plan to retire? Not a chance. But Jackie will be in a position to replace me.
Good, always good to plan for the future, because you and I won't be here forever.
No. Then in Nepal, of course, we have a team of workers that work for us. Lokendra is the director of the operations in Nepal. He graduated from the Himalayan Institute of the Bible, which is the Church of Christ school overseen by the Commerce Church of Christ in Commerce, Georgia.
Okay.
Very good school, very sound, very basic, and I think he's doing a good job for us.
Great.
All the different preachers at the 35 congregations find the girls that are vulnerable. Mm-hmm. They bring them to him. He fills out the pre-qualification sheet, sends it to me. I approve them to go to the safe house, and we'll see a picture of the safe house after a while.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So that's in Nepal. You're working in other countries as well?
Yes, China. Mm-hmm. And our next point, we've already surveyed Thailand, we've surveyed Laos, we've surveyed Vietnam, and we've surveyed Cambodia. We have churches in all of these countries. Now, some of them are not as easily accessible to Christianity as others, just like China is not. China will always be a little more difficult. Mm-hmm. We have to be cautious. Laos is one that we have to be cautious. We know we can work in the southern part of Vietnam without difficulty, but up around Hanoi, it gets to be very difficult. We may not be able to have a safe house. And yet, Chinese men are coming into Vietnam on a regular basis to buy their wives and to traffic them back to China because of the shortage of women in China for men. We have a little girl right now that her story is just fantastic. It's probably coming out pretty soon in the Christian Woman magazine. Her father was a Chinese man that did not have a wife. He went to Vietnam and bought a wife, brought her back into China. He was much older than her. Then they had this child. He passed away, and she was sold to another man in China after he died. Well, she has no one, and she's vulnerable to trafficking because of her age. So we have her in our care now in China. But trafficking is all over the world.
It's just hard to imagine that somebody whose spouse has passed away, they're sold as you would cattle.
That's right. They're auctioned off. That's correct. Occurs every 30 seconds of the day. It's unbelievable.
I never would have imagined such horrible depravity.
That's right.
That occurs. And some of this bleeds over into the United States.
Oh, yes, it does. It definitely does. And criminals don't report their activities. But there are many estimates about how many come into the United States. I was down in McAllen, Texas, must have been in February. And the immigration people in McAllen told me that from October of last year to February of this year, 44,000 had crossed into the United States from Mexico. 44,000. So that's the reason they come up when we will come to a figure on a chart in a few minutes. About 300,000 per year come into the United States. Now, some estimates are higher and some estimates are lower. Our sources of information are the United Nations and the United States State Department of Immigration and Human Services. But on this one, you can see 11,700,000 coming from Asia. That's the reason we're working in Asia. Mm-hmm. You look at comparable to the countries that are in gray, which would be the United States, Iceland, Europe, the Scandinavian countries, and Australia, 1.5 million. Well, that doesn't even compare to 11.7 million that come from Asia. Very minor.
The 1.5 million is staggering to me.
Yes, it is. It's bad enough. That's correct.
Yeah, but 11 million is just mind-boggling.
That's right. It's horrible.
And 3.7 million out of Africa?
Yes. That's correct. It's very sad. Mm. So, around the world, they say 27 to 36 million. And coming to America, that's the dream of every one of them, of course, to get an opportunity to come to the United States. Why do they all want to learn English so they can come to the United States? So they're deceived, just like the devil deceives everybody. I think about the billions of people that are deceived by the devil. It's disturbing. They have no rights. They don't speak English. Some of them feel guilty because how did I get into this situation? Some of them think, well, it's going to get better. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. They're beaten. They're abused. And I can't even tell all that I know about the things that happen. If a person really wants to learn, all they have to do is go into YouTube and type in human trafficking, and they will get all the information they can ever stand.
Oh, my stomach's churning just sitting here talking about it.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm going to YouTube and looking at that. There's some things that I'd really rather just not ever have to see.
That's true. And there's several movies, but you know, the movies are kind of tainted by Hollywood, but some of them give some realistic picture of human trafficking. And human trafficking is getting more attention. Like on the ballot in Georgia, there is an amendment that will cause the adult bookstores to have to pay a high tax. That tax all will go for human trafficking victims, if it passes.
So the connection between an adult bookstore and human trafficking, is there a connection there? Don't
know of any connection, but it is the source of some income for the government to take care of the human trafficking victims.
Yeah, I can see there's some logic there, but there's not a direct connection per se.
As far as we know, there's not. Now, there may be in some cases. The main party that is involved in human trafficking around the world is the Russian mafia, the strongest mafia that exists in the world. They're operating in 32 countries around the world, and they're getting stronger and stronger every day. That's where I first came in contact with the Russian mafia, was in southern China, when a government official told me that fathers of the Miao tribe were selling their daughters for $10,000 each. It has bothered me for years to think that that was happening.
Selling their own daughters.
Selling their daughters, that's correct.
And the amount of money we're talking about, at $10,000 a piece, 10 million of these, the dollar signs are just huge. You can see where there's huge business in this.
That's right. It's estimated, the lowest estimate that I've ever seen is that it's about 36 million today. Now my chart will show, I think, 27 million. It's about 36 million. But you know, if I check on some other sources, they claim it could be as high as 300 billion per year. That's staggering. And that 36 is billion, not million. $36 billion per year industry around the world. Such as India, 20 million girls per year. And a lot of these in India are child labor, slaves. Nepal, 20,000. Recently we had a girl that all they did was one shot of some kind of drug in her neck, and she was just basically a zombie. and he put her into a Muslim outfit where nothing but her eyes showed. He got her as far as Dubai. He was going to sell her into a Muslim country. There are Muslim sheiks that have as many as 40 girls in his harem. 40 girls that he's paid $10,000 a piece for, probably average. But with all the money, what does it matter? You know, it's no problem. Unlimited funds.
Oh. That's disgusting.
It is.
It really is. And the numbers of people we're talking about here, these are lives, these are souls.
That's correct.
It's hard to really grasp and put your mind around.
That's right. Well, we'll have to have help. We'll have to have help from the churches in Nepal, from the churches in the Philippines. My son is in the Philippines now building an orphanage. We'll have to have the churches. The church is growing in Thailand very rapidly. It's not a communist country. It is ruled by a military dictatorship, which says we're going to have democratic elections sometime, but that just keeps putting off. Cambodia, we have churches in Phnom Penh, we have churches in Siem Reap. In India, we must have over 1,000 congregations that will work with us. Will I live long enough to get to all these goals? I don't know, but they're in the plan anyway.
At least there's some, yes, and,
right.
and there's somebody else who can pick up the work and continue on.
Exactly. That's the important part. And God loves them just as much as He loves us. And they're just as valuable as we are to God. So we have a responsibility to them. As we look at the things that are involved, this is what we propose to do for each one of the victims that we come in contact with.
Mm-hmm. And that would be kind of a pattern that can be followed?
That's right.
Okay. Could you outline that pattern for us a little bit and maybe explain that for us?
Okay. We don't want to build buildings like we did in China. So we will lease a safe house like we have in Kathmandu. It's a 3-story building. We can house 20 to 40 girls, 2 per room, and have a house mother, member of the church, have all the staff members of the church, the director's a member of the church. We have the preacher training students to come teach them. We have vocational education that we can get them involved in. So they will be cared for properly. To get them out of poverty, to get them to have some self-esteem, which they have none now.
That would be pretty hard. I mean, when your parents turn their backs on you.
That's correct. And that's what's happened.
Oh, that would be a very difficult thing for anybody to overcome.
Exactly. And we'll follow up with the girls and try to be sure they have a good job, be sure they're involved in a congregation, working and active in the congregation. The church is the greatest institution that has ever been established on this earth. Like the girls that are shown right here in this photograph. 5 of those girls have been baptized and converted to Christ. The girl on the lower row, the second one in the stripes, she's the one that her father bought her mother in Vietnam. And she's been baptized. She's very active in the church. And we will convert others as time goes on.
So one of the takeaways that I'm walking away from this conversation very firmly planted in my mind is we as the Lord's church really need to take our responsibility towards orphans very serious. That's because right. the situation is more tragic than we would probably imagine.
That's correct. The orphan is so vulnerable, They have no one to go to. They have no social network. They have no education. They live in poverty. They live in the streets. They do whatever they can just to get enough food to eat.
And it sounds like there's plenty enough people walking around like a roaring lion, seeking whom they may devour.
That's correct. Exactly.
And these poor girls don't have much of a chance.
That's right. You see, we're asking people to give $30 per month for each child. Well, the mafia doesn't mind investing $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to get them. We're competing against a very strong force. Very difficult.
But hopefully the results of even just after a few weeks to see this is where this course leads, and this is where
That's right.
true Christianity leads. The difference become obvious very quickly once the deception has been removed.
Exactly. It's like this slide right here. 100 years from now, it will not matter what my bank account was, the sort of house I lived in, or the car I drove, but the soul of a young girl may be saved because I was important in saving her from destroying her life and her soul. That's what we need to think about. If we save their lives and save their souls, that's our goal. But it takes a lot of people working with us to do this. We can't do it on our own. I am self-supporting. I draw no money from any contribution or any kind. So, and some people say, well, no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't sacrifice like you do. We're called to sacrifice as Christians. It's our reasonable service. So I don't mind asking people to give because they're not giving to me. They're giving to save the life and a soul of a girl who could destroy her life and her soul.
And let me be honest, here in the United States, most Americans, talking $30 a month, isn't even a sacrifice.
No, it's not. They waste that much.
Yeah, it could be a drop in the bucket.
That's right.
And you know, clearly the need to help orphans, as in Scripture, James tells us that pure and undefiled religion requires helping widows and orphans in their affliction. And I think the time that we've spent together, we've seen that affliction is real.
Very real.
And it's dangerous and worse than we ever imagined. And I'm still shocked that this is going on here in the United States. You mentioned there were several cities that are kind of hotbeds for trafficking. What cities are those?
Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Phoenix, El Paso, Denver and Houston. Coming on around, you'd come to Birmingham, Atlanta, and then Atlanta has become a major hub for trafficking up the East Coast. Charlotte, New York is a major center. It's more around the border areas of the United States. Miami, there are 20 cities that are listed by the State Department as centers. And the thing that, you know, I would not have believed this, but gradually Nashville, Tennessee is becoming a center for trafficking. I don't know about Memphis, but Nashville has got many different ones. I was in Florence, Alabama a few weeks ago, and there's a man in jail in Florence for trafficking in Florence, Alabama. We think that's just a little quiet place. It's not very quiet. It's active.
And there could be girls there suffering.
That's correct.
And living a miserable existence of slavery and abuse around any one of us.
That's correct. It's happening right in our eyes. We don't know it. That's correct.
Wow. I wish we had time to go in. Is there anything that we can do here locally to identify situations like this? Is it something that obviously the police are concerned about?
They are. But when I look at the number of arrests that are made for human trafficking, like the majority of the arrests that are made in Texas, because here we got the border and we got basically an open border where they're crossing into the United States without any problem. They can go to websites and find a place where they've got shelter, where they'll be given food. Everything is provided for them because they're human beings, and there are agencies that are working all along the border from McAllen over to Brownsville that will take care of these girls. In fact, from El Paso, although there's one area there which is just basically nothing, you know.
Yeah, it's one of the most desolate places in the entire country.
Rattlesnakes mainly. But anyway, it's a hard area. But there are very few convictions. And sometimes I wonder, why are there so few convictions when there are many arrests of people for trafficking? I don't know the answer. In Miami, I do know the answer. The Russian mafia controls most of the crime that occurs in Miami, Florida. So pay off, get off. That's what's happening, regretfully.
That is horrible to even think about corruption here in our country.
That's correct.
So a major problem, but there's things that people can do.
Oh, yes.
Helping support orphans' work and
go to our website, www.save-asian-souls.org. And they can sign up to support an orphan. They can send a one-time contribution, or they can let me know that, hey, there are churches that I go and visit all the time, and I'll give a report about the work. I can't say everything that I know, but I can say enough that they'll realize it's a great need and something needs to be done.
Yeah.
And we have a responsibility.
Absolutely. A very, very difficult subject to talk about, but one that really does need to be covered, and people need to be exposed to, because it's not something that we're helpless against.
No.
We can make a difference. We can have an effect. If not on several lives, at least one life.
That's correct.
Something that can make a difference and could affect a soul or several souls for eternity.
Exactly. It's like the little boys that were walking along the seashore, which I show, and here's a starfish that washed up, and he reaches down, picks one up, and throws it back in, and the little boy says, "You can't save all the starfish." He said, "I saved that one." And we can save one soul. Every Christian could save one soul. I know that's possible.
And make a dent.
That's right.
In the supply of girls that are easy prey.
Exactly.
For these horrible traffickers.
I agree.
Well, Ron, thank you for sitting down and spending the time talking about this difficult subject, and hope and pray that the work goes well, that souls and girls may be saved. They're valuable in the sight of God, and as such, they need to be valuable in our sight as well.
That's correct.
And the other thing I think it really highlights is the level of depravity that is around us is horrible, and the gospel message is something that we need to proclaim as loudly and as strongly as we ever have before.
It's the only answer.
Amen to that. Thanks so much for being with us, and join us again next time on A Preacher and His Work.